You are listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. I'm Elena Paventa, Executive Communication Coach and TEDx organizer. With each episode, I'll share with you communication tips and ideas from top business leaders to help you excel in your career. Welcome to the next episode of Ideas and Leaders podcast. Today, I am going to have a very interesting conversation with Nathanael Garrett Novosel. He's an author of the book called The Meaning of Life. And he has over 16 years of research and advisory experience and over 20 years of research in psychology, philosophy, behavioral economics, and business. And today we're going to speak about the meaning of life, the meaning of our existence in business as well. Hi, Nate. It is great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So tell us about your book, The Meaning of Life. Why did you decide to write it?
Yeah, so, it's a little bit of a sob story. So when I was 5, my father disappeared in the middle of the night. And I don't remember how I felt or anything because I was too young. But I do remember how I felt a year later when we actually got to go see him. He moved to California. I'm from Pittsburgh. And I remember going out for 3 weeks and 2 days. And then I came home. And I was crying on the plane ride over there because I never left my mother before. But the way I felt when I got home and the first night in bed after coming back from that trip, I felt like my heart was ripped out of my chest and I felt empty and worthless. And like pain I wouldn't wish on anybody on planet Earth. That's how bad it was. And I just asked myself, and I'm like 6, so it's kind of silly, but I was like, what is the point of all this if you're just gonna be miserable like this? And I asked myself, what is being life? But my brain is kind of like can have a little bit of a Spock kind of thing going on. So I'm sobbing like a child would in that situation. But the back of my mind's like, that's a fascinating question. I wonder if you can answer that. And off to the races. Like for the next 20 odd years, I was just studying anything on psychology and meaning and religion and anything I could get my hands on to understand that question and the answer to it. And after 20 some years, I was going from one company to another, and I was asking myself how I'd impart insight about what I learned to other people about how to be successful in life. And when I asked myself that question, the strangest thing happened. All these like concepts popped into my head, like, you need to have desire, you need to have belief, you grow through experience. The point of it is to continue to grow and improve. And I was like, oh my God, like I don't know what happened to me, but I was just like, this is amazing. I was like, I got to write this down. That like I broke down everything I learned about how people find meaning and purpose in their lives into 8 fundamental concepts that if you understand them and master them, you can guaranteed find your life to be meaningful and purposeful. And it was that made me write the book. It took 7 years. It finally came out last year, and here we are today. That's the book, and it talks about humans, the drivers of human sense of purpose and meaning. Yeah.
Wow, what an amazing story. Congratulations on
thank you.
7 years journey and on finally getting your book out. Mm-hmm. It is interesting that you told your childhood story because earlier this week, a couple of days ago, I was walking with my 8-year-old from school, and she was like, Mom, what is the meaning of life? And I realized that I don't know.
Yeah.
It is so hard to answer, but kids, they are they think that we have answers to all of those complicated questions, but in fact, we don't. And very often, even for business professionals, that we have a lot of leaders and business professionals that are listening to our podcast, we are pursuing our careers, we are doing something, but still we don't have this maybe bigger sense of purpose behind this. So it would be very interesting to find out, and this is what I wanted to ask you. Is it possible to, even if we are a little bit lost and we don't have this sense of purpose, even though we achieved a lot in life, is it possible to still find this meaning, to start finding this meaning, and how to do it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you don't mind, I'm happy to start a little bit of background about what actually drives a sense of meaning of life. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's a little long story, but I'll try to keep it short. There are 8 things that drive meaning and purpose in life. And those are, and I'll list them out and then we can talk about them: growth, experience, desire, belief, emotions, ethics, support, and choice. And those are the 8. If you can master those 8, you can get those right, you'll find meaning and purpose. It's guaranteed as 2 + 2 = 4 because it's how the mind works. But the funny thing is that there is a scientific answer to your question of what is the meaning of life. A lot of the reason why it's so hard is because people conflate a lot of definitions of meaning, right? So like, what's the goal of life? What's the origin of life? Like, where did it come from and all that stuff? And they kind of conflate all that into meaning. But if you go with the most scientifically provable definitions, there are 3 definitions that are scientifically testable or provable or supportable. And those are the definition of life, right? The actual literal meaning, the intent or purpose of life, and the what makes it significant. Those are actually provable because you can, look it up in the dictionary. So growth answers those 3 definitions. So if someone asks you what is the meaning of life, you just say growth. That's actually the short answer. That's the entire point. And then people will go, oh no, I mean the goal, like I mean the point, and we can get into that, but let's just put that aside for now. The reason why it answers those 3 is because, first of all, if you look in the dictionary and say what's life, it says, well, it's some organism with the capacity to grow. It literally says that in the definition. And then if you look at the purpose or intent, what do humans do? I mean, Darwin, solved that, right? That's not die, right? And then that's how you carry on your genes. But what are they not dying for? Well, they not died to reproduce. Okay. Reproduction is a form of growth, right? That's continuous growth, right? So growth is the point. And then finally, significance. You can actually measure this just through looking at society. What do people win awards for, right? You win Lifetime Achievement Awards, you win awards for, Oscars and Grammys and all this stuff. The thing doesn't win the award. It's not like, I mean, yeah, okay, maybe like the best picture or whatever, but like the movie doesn't, like, you don't print out a DVD and it doesn't walk up to the stage and take the award. The people get the award, not the thing. And what do they get the award for? They get the award for the achievement. But what does the achievement represent? It represents that these people were able to grow through their experiences of developing the film or whatever, the music or whatever, to have this great outcome for the world or for themselves or whatever. So it's all about growth. It's all there. So that's the point. So
Yeah,
what are those
and
others? Oh, sorry.
I will interrupt you for a moment.
Yeah,
Just wanted
please.
to say that this moment of getting an award is very often not the defining moment.
Yeah.
And very often when we achieve something big, we are like, okay, so what now? What is the next goal? And very often I feel this myself, and I know many people who share the same, that we're a little bit even disappointed that this moment of achieving an award or reaching a final destination that we were planning for so long is not that big as it seemed. It is just normal thing. So I think that this is more, the meaning is more in the process than in the final goal.
Exactly. And that's what people find out. People who make a lot of money and that was their goal realize it's not everything and they're still not necessarily happy. People who get married, it doesn't just ride off in the sunset together or whatever, that there's, you got to work after that. It's all about growth. It's all about continuing to improve. What's next? What else is there? But what are those other 7 things for, right? Those other 7 things they're the other things that actually make that growth meaningful, right? So you can't grow without experience. Experience is the medium through which growth occurs. So you need that. Desire is the motivation to drive you toward a specific outcome. So you won't grow unless you want to do something, want to improve to a better future state. So you need desire. Belief prevents you from quitting. So if you don't believe you're going to get it, you'll never start it, right? Or if you don't believe you're going to get it midway through, you get a setback, you won't continue. So you need belief. Emotions, you need to feel good about what you're doing. You need to fulfillment is the indicator, the primary indicator that you have a life of meaning because you feel fulfilled, right? So all these things are component. There's ethics. You have to do it the right way. If you do it the wrong way, like if you cheat, think about the Hall of Fame for things, right? I mean, a lot of cheaters during the steroid era aren't in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Why not? Because it doesn't mean anything. Why? Because they cheated. The cheating, the not following the ethical approach to playing the game, means it's no longer significance. There it is. It's no longer significant. Their achievements are no longer significant because they cheated.
Yeah.
So ethics are necessary support. You got to work together as a group. You can see the business aspect there, working as a team. And then finally, the choice. You have to self-direct your life. If you don't have control over your life, if you don't have agency, if you're just kind of like on a rails, like if you're like on a little I was gonna say merry-go-round, but I mean like more one of those little, on rails rides at Disney World or whatever, like Pirates of the Caribbean or something. You have no control over anything, and so you're just kind of sitting there. You're just an observer, and that's not meaningful. That's not cool because you're not doing anything. So you need all 8 of those things, and they all apply to the business world, and as we'll talk about in a second.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So I can see that growth is very important. But I think that it can also be a problem if we focus on growth and we make it a goal in itself. We might it might be a problem. Do you observe such situations in your work as you work with people, that they are so much focused on growth that they don't have this sense of meaning anymore?
Yeah. So people who run into the situation you described don't understand what growth is, like really is. It's kind of like trying to think of it. We were talking about like getting money, and then you have a lot of money, and it's like, now what? It's like, well, wasn't the point. It's what you can, it's the value created, what you generated it. It's what you can do with it afterwards, the experiences you can have. It's the security you have. It's all that stuff. And so people who grow and say, I don't have meaning, they just, a lot of people think growth isn't the rest. Like if you work out, the key to the workout that gets you the big muscles is not the workout. It's the rest afterwards where your body repairs itself. So if you don't rest, if you think growth is just work, and you never rest, then of course you're not going to have meaning because you haven't rested. And rest is part of growth. So that's what I mean by like people who don't find meaning while they're growing are either focused on the wrong things or growing in things that don't matter to them. That's an issue. And a lot of times that's caused by people telling you, oh, I thought this was success because someone told me it was success. So I did it. I followed someone else's definition of success and they were wrong for me. So if you're going in the wrong direction, then that's a problem, but that's not a problem with growth. It's a problem that you picked the wrong thing. You pick what other people told you. If you're not resting, then you just don't understand that growth involves rest. And the other thing is you might prioritize one growth area and sacrifice others. And there are many growth areas. There's physical growth, there's emotional growth, there's intellectual growth, there's business growth, there's all kinds of growth. And so you might grow at the detriment of other things, and you're not really growing as a whole human being. You're sacrificing too much, and so therefore you don't find meaning. So it's all of those things that cause that, not the fact that you like over focused on growth or something like that. No.
Yes, absolutely. So we need to find this balance and to understand that there are different areas of life. There is emotional development, intellectual development, and when we're thinking about growth, we are thinking about achievement in business, we're thinking about our financial situation, about our career very often. And very often we see overachievers who really achieve a lot, and sometimes they have some issues with their mental health. They might have some issues with their private life. They might have some issues with their emotional well-being. So what do you recommend to such people, how to find this balance, this not only work-life balance, but the balance in all of those areas that we need to take care about?
That's a fantastic question. And first, I need to dispel a myth about, a lot of people think that there's like this certain economic philosophies that the purpose of businesses are to make money and that's it, and nothing else matters. And we all know that that's not true, but for some reason they use it to demonize like some straw man that doesn't really exist. Oh, companies exist to make money and nothing else. Like, companies exist to deliver value to people through whatever services they're providing in exchange for value in return, whatever you need. And yeah, for your business to succeed, it needs to grow. The growth is the driving thing. Like making more money means you can do more business, so you can support more people. So like Amazon is delivering, via drones and stuff, stuff in 2 hours. Could it have done that 20 years ago? No, it needed to grow as a business to get to that kind of capability. So first of all, I just wanted to dispel that myth. But to answer your question, yeah, there are many forms of growth. So yeah, monetary growth, you need more income so you can grow your business. But then there's also growth in your skill or trade. So you have people on your team and they all want to get better at what they do, and they want to contribute more to society, and they want to be better people in the professional world. They want to be better professionals. So you need to support that kind of growth. You also, they have personal lives that money is funneling. So they want to go and maybe have families, or I don't know, go and run marathons, whatever it is they want to do in their personal time. And it's the job and the career that actually enables all that other stuff to happen. So when you think about growth holistically, of all the things that, all the growth you're enabling with the business as a leader, you want to remember that there's the growth of the team where they're bonding as a group. There's the growth of the business, yes, monetarily, but then there's also other things like getting better at what you do, helping people more effectively, being more efficient, and all that other fun stuff. And then there's the feeling of helping people that your business actually delivers, because you're delivering a service or product, right? So if you make pizzas, okay, you don't go down the route of like, well, we're not saving the whales, like, that. You're feeding people. What's better? What's a higher purpose than feeding people, keeping them alive, and they enjoy eating your food? That's wonderful. So not only are you sustaining them, but they're thriving as a result of your food. So like everybody's got a great thing that they do, and it's about inspiring them to that higher form of growth that you're enabling across the board. That is going to be key to success for an entrepreneur or leader.
Yes. So just to sum up what we were speaking about, it is really important to differentiate growth and overachievement. So just working a lot, working long hours doesn't mean that you will grow as a person, you will grow emotionally. The fact that you will earn more money, it does not mean that you will find more meaning. We need to focus on all of those other areas as well. And Nate, what would you suggest to our listeners when they actually think of those other areas they need to focus on? How to sustain this balance in long term, because it is really hard. Now we decide that we're going to work out regularly and we'll meditate and do all those wellness and mindfulness practices, but then we have a very urgent project at work, and then we need to work long hours and we don't have time for anything. So, and then we say, okay, so it doesn't matter, I need to work. What would you recommend to do in practice? Some maybe short, small practices that we can do every day to sustain this balance?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's what I recommend all my leaders when I do my advisory calls, right? Since I advise leaders every day. It's identify the goals for your organization, or for you in this case, if you're a leader and you're doing your personal goals, and then cascade down those goals to the things you need to do to get them done, or how you work as a business, or how your life is broken out into time, time management or whatever, to get all that stuff done. And then it's a matter of trade-offs from there, right? It's which goals are more important, which ones take priority, so you can allocate more time to them or do them first. And what are you willing to possibly trade off or sacrifice in the attainment of them? And you want to monitor that, because you might go too far. You mentioned working too long hours. I mean, if you can't think straight and you go home and you're miserable, or your family hates you, or you never make your kids' ball games or whatever, or dance recitals or whatever it is, then you're not really I always say optimal growth, not maximum growth, because tumors can achieve maximum growth and then you're dead. So you don't necessarily want maximum growth. We also shave even do all kinds of other things, right? Because you don't necessarily want maximum growth, you want optimal growth. So you want to optimize what you're willing to do. And everybody's going to be different. So if you're a star athlete, I'm sorry, but if you want to be the best in the world, if you want to be the Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or whatever, you're going to have to probably sacrifice a tad more. Maybe you don't get to learn to play the piano. Sorry, you're going to be out there playing football a little bit more. But it doesn't necessarily mean you have to sacrifice your family. You just got to pick, okay, I'm going to play football and I'm going to work out and I'm going to learn all my stuff. And then I'm going to go be with my family, but I can't really do anything else. So no TV watching for me. You're not going to watch the Game of Thrones or whatever. You're just going to have to accept that. But then there are other times where you aren't willing to accept it. If you are sacrificing other things, your health, your family, whatever, you have to just tell yourself, I got to dial that back because I'm not willing to lose my wife, or I'm not willing to lose my husband, or I'm not willing to lose the love of my kids, just so I can put out a few more units or whatever for my business, even though I love my business. So it's just making those trade-offs. But you cascade from the goals to what you need to do. You prioritize them. You figure out what matters most, and then you monitor for changes in how much time you allocate.
Yeah, perfect. So in order to find our life purpose, if we want to start now, what would you recommend based on what we already discussed? What would you recommend to our listeners? What we can do now, start doing now, in order to feel more fulfilled at work and also in our private lives?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to summarize all of that in one word, it would be care. I know it's a weird thing to say, but honestly, if you think about the definition of the word care by definition is assigning meaning, purpose, or significance to whatever it is you're focused on. So the act of caring is in essence assigning meaning to something. So it's kind of a cop-out answer, but it actually is, in one word, care more about everything you're doing. That's why people tell you to practice mindfulness. Think about what mindfulness is. It's sitting in the moment, being in the moment, and actually caring about everything you see and accepting it, and being detached, but also being compassionate and all that fun paradoxical stuff you do in mindfulness. And you're basically just caring about what you do in every moment. So like that's kind of what they're trying to get through there. But other than that, number one thing of what you could do just right now and start caring more about everything you do, in terms of finding things that to actually care about. I mean, identifying and defining your life priorities are very big. You want to make sure you have that in order. Defining goals, new goals. So let's say you attain the goal. You mentioned that, like, oh, you attain the goal, and now what's next? Yeah, maybe you need a bigger goal. If you're not excited about it, maybe you need a bigger one. Or if it's too big and you're overwhelmed and you're paralyzed and you go crawl in a corner, which happens, maybe you need to find a smaller goal. And so you want to, find things to care about, right size the goal so you're either excited or realistic. So you feel, again, desire belief. That's balancing your desire belief is what I call it. Is you want it great enough so you want it, but believable enough so you do it. And then you just want to check to make sure you haven't found something new or something's gone away, because you might do something and then you don't like it anymore. You need to revisit that to see, like, do I really still care about what I'm doing? Because if the answer is no, I mean, yeah, you can inject more care into it, and that's fine. You can refine discover yourself or whatever. But it might be that maybe you just don't care anymore. Maybe that's it for you. Maybe you want to do something else, and you just got to be ready to accept that. That's okay, because you can stop growing. If you're good enough and you're good and you just want to go into something else, then do that. But you just want to constantly monitor for changes in how you feel about your life, to be ready to kind of change gears or change priorities as necessary.
Yeah, perfect. So Nate, if our listeners want to contact you to ask more questions, where can they find you?
Sure, I'm on most of the social media places. So it's either at Life the Book, or I think I have at the Meaning of Life book or something like that for the one I couldn't get. But that's like Facebook, Twitter, and all those fun social media places. And then I have my website, yourmeaningoflife.com. I keep probably one of the top Meaning of Life blogs that exist. I mean, obviously Mark Manson's probably like number one, but probably in the top 5 or something. So if you want to check out the blog, it has some just kind of weekly advice on that. And then the book, The Meaning of Life, Guide to Your Life's Purpose, is Finding Your Life's Purpose, is on Amazon. And then I've got a book coming out with a multi-author book called The X Factor, coming out on October 15th.
Perfect. I will for sure put all the links with your social media and links to your book under the episode so that our listeners can immediately click and listen to it. Thank you so much for speaking about life purpose. For sure, I had a lot of insights during this conversation. I'm sure that our listeners enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much, Nate, for being on Ideas and Leaders.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. Did you enjoy this episode? Let me know that you listened by tagging me in your LinkedIn profile and using a hashtag Ideas and Leaders. See you in the next episode.